Tonight, we revisit a wild promotion that turned into one of baseball's most chaotic nights. Settle in as we journey to Cleveland, 1974, and the unforgettable 10-cent beer night. This is Bullpen Bedtime. June 4th, 1974, Cleveland Municipal Stadium. A night that would live in baseball infamy, born from the simplest of promotional ideas and the most human of miscalculations. Sometimes the most memorable games in baseball history aren't decided by home runs or strikeouts, but by the wild unpredictability of 10,000 people and an ocean of 10-cent beer. The Cleveland Indians were struggling that summer, as they had been struggling for years. The once proud franchise that had captured hearts in the 40s and 50s now found itself playing to empty seats and echoing concourses. General Manager Phil Segui and his promotional team were desperate for anything that might bring fans back to the cavernous stadium on the shores of Lake Erie. They'd tried everything: bat days, ball days, jacket nights, but nothing seemed to work. Then someone suggested the most American of promotions: cheap beer. Not just cheap, practically free. 10 cents for a 12-ounce cup of beer with no limit on purchases. It seemed like the perfect solution to fill seats on a Tuesday night against the Texas Rangers. What could possibly go wrong? The answer came early that evening, as fans began streaming through the turnstiles hours before first pitch. By 6 o'clock, with the sun still hanging over the lake, the concession stands were already doing a booming business. The beer lines stretched longer than any food line anyone could remember. Fans weren't buying one beer or even two. They were buying them by the armload, carrying plastic cups stacked precariously back to their seats. The atmosphere started festively enough. Cleveland fans, starved for something to celebrate, embraced the promotion with enthusiasm. The stadium, which had been averaging fewer than 8,000 fans per game, was filling up with over 25,000 people. The energy was electric in a way Municipal Stadium hadn't felt in years. Fans were laughing, singing, cheering for everything and nothing. Even routine pop flies drew roars of approval. But as the evening wore on and the beer flowed freely, the mood began to shift. What had started as good-natured fun was slowly becoming something else entirely. Fans who had consumed multiple cups, and many had consumed far more than that, were becoming increasingly bold and increasingly unruly. Beach balls appeared from nowhere, bouncing through the crowd. Paper airplanes sailed down from the upper deck. Someone had smuggled in firecrackers, and small explosions punctuated the already chaotic soundscape. The game itself was almost secondary to the carnival unfolding in the stands. The Indians and Rangers played through an increasingly surreal atmosphere. Fans were running onto the field during play, some streaking, others simply wanting to be part of the action. Security guards, outnumbered and overwhelmed, could barely keep pace with the interruptions. Each time they escorted someone off the field, 3 more fans would appear from different sections. Ranger outfielder Jeff Burroughs found himself dodging more than just fly balls. Fans were throwing everything: beer cups, batteries, pieces of stadium seating. When he ventured near the right field wall, someone dumped a full cup of beer on his head. When he complained to the umpires, fans responded by hurling even more debris in his direction. The Texas players were growing increasingly concerned for their safety. By the 7th inning, what had started as a promotion had become a powder keg. The score was tied 4-4, but nobody was really watching the baseball anymore. The real action was in the stands, where fans had begun climbing over railings, starting fights with each other, and openly challenging security. Someone had started a bonfire in the upper deck using programs and seat cushions. The smell of smoke mixed with the smell of spilled beer and summer sweat. Then came the ninth inning, and the moment everything unraveled completely. A fan ran onto the field and actually reached Texas Rangers right fielder Jeff Burroughs, attempting to steal his cap. Burroughs fell backward trying to avoid the fan, and when his teammates saw him go down, they assumed he'd been attacked. The entire Texas bench emptied onto the field, bats in hand, ready to defend their teammate. That was all the excuse the crowd needed. Suddenly, it wasn't just one or two fans running onto the field, it was hundreds. They poured over the railings like water through a broken dam, rushing the diamond from every direction. Some carried pieces of stadium seats as weapons. Others had stolen bases and were waving them like trophies. A few enterprising fans had even managed to tear home plate from its moorings. The scene was absolute chaos. Players from both teams found themselves back-to-back in the center of the field, surrounded by an angry mob of intoxicated fans. Indians manager Ken Aspermonte was trying to restore order, pleading with his own fans to return to their seats, but it was too late for reason. The crowd had tasted anarchy and found it intoxicating. Umpire Nestor Chilak, a veteran of thousands of games, had never seen anything like it. Fans were throwing chunks of concrete torn from the stadium structure. Someone hurled a folding chair that nearly struck him in the head. His fellow umpires huddled around him as he made the only decision possible under the circumstances. After conferring briefly with both managers, Chilak declared the game forfeited to the Texas Rangers due to the inability to continue play. The announcement of the forfeit only enraged the crowd further. Fans who had already lost all sense of boundaries now felt betrayed by their own team's surrender. The riot continued for another hour as police in riot gear finally arrived to restore order. By the time the stadium was cleared, the field looked like a battlefield. The pitching mound had been completely destroyed. Sections of the outfield fence had been torn down. Even the bases had been stolen, leaving only the empty dirt cutouts where they belonged. The aftermath was swift and severe. The American League launched an immediate investigation. The Indians faced significant fines and were forced to implement new security measures for all future promotions. 10-cent beer night became a cautionary tale told in front offices across baseball, a reminder that the line between promotion and pandemonium could be thinner than anyone imagined. But perhaps remarkably, the incident didn't kill the Indians' promotional spirit entirely. They continued to search for ways to bring fans back to Municipal Stadium, though never again would beer be sold for anywhere near 10 cents. The lesson had been learned. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in a baseball park isn't a 90-mile-per-hour fastball, but the unpredictable chemistry of desperate hope, cheap alcohol, and 25,000 people looking for something to believe in. As you settle in to sleep tonight, consider how the most memorable moments in baseball often come not from perfect games or record-breaking performances, but from the gloriously imperfect humanity that surrounds the sport. 10-cent beer night reminds us that baseball, at its heart, is about people, and people, given the right circumstances, are capable of both magnificent and magnificently foolish things. The game itself may have been forfeited, but the story it created has lasted 50 years and counting, a perfectly preserved piece of baseball's wild and wonderful history. Sweet dreams, and may your own promotional ideas be both successful and safely manageable. Good night.